So I have three checklist skills to go through when you're trying to identify a verb. So let's have a look at them. First, read the sentence and find the subject. Who is the sentence about? Once you've done that, look for what they are doing. What is the who in the sentence doing? Occasionally, that's really tricky to find. And sometimes in sentences, you might think there is an action word, but it behaves like a noun. So I'm going to show you examples of that. So if you're not sure, try my final step, which is do a tense check. So you read the sentence 3 times. You find the subject of the sentence first, and then you put the word now in front of the subject, and that will put the sentence in the present tense. Then you read the whole sentence again, and you put the word yesterday in front of the subject, the who the sentence is about, and that will put the whole sentence in the past tense. And finally, you read the sentence again, and you put the word tomorrow in front of the subject, and that will put the sentence in the future tense. And each time you do that, listen very carefully, because the verb will have to change in order for the sentence to make sense. And that is how you definitely know you found your verb, because that will be the word that's changing. That's a lot of information. So let's take a sentence. Now, all the sentences I use in my grammar lessons, or most of them I use in the grammar lessons, will be from a book that I have written about Zephyr. So you'll introduce or get introduced to some of the characters as we read the sentences. So let's have a go and practice. Now it's time for our practice. Practicing things is the best way to master them. Don't be afraid if you don't get something first time. And actually, the ability to keep going is a really good skill in itself. So we're going to practice how to identify a verb. I'm at the moment practicing how to steer the boat so I don't keep crashing into the logs. So that's something that I'm working on. Let's have a look at our sentence about Zephyr. Zephyr was hungry. So here we have our sentence all about Zephyr, and yes, she is a Labrador, and yes, she is always hungry. So we know our subject is Zephyr. That's who it is about. We found that right away. So our second step will be look for what they are doing. Well, in this sentence, it's difficult because after the word Zephyr, we have 2 words, was and hungry. And there's not a clear action word, doing word. So this is where step 3, the tense check, is really valuable. So I'm going to put the word now in front of Zephyr, and I'm going to read the sentence all again. Now Zephyr was has to change, doesn't it? Because now Zephyr was hungry doesn't make sense. Now Zephyr is hungry. Was has to change to is. So this word has had to change using the word now, because we've turned this sentence, which is a past sentence in the past tense, to the present tense, and see a word has changed. Let's just try it with yesterday. Yesterday Zephyr was hungry. Well, this sentence is already written in the past, so nothing is changing. Tomorrow Zephyr will be hungry, or is going to be hungry. So is puts it in the present tense. Will be puts the sentence in the future tense. And was puts the sentence in the past tense. And it's from the verb to be. So there is a verb to be in its simple form. And when you change tense, it changes to was, is, and will be. So was is the verb. Let's have a look at a second sentence. Grandma. Now, Grandma in the story is the owner of Zephyr, and she has the narrowboat. Grandma pulled the boat in with the centre line. So, who is the subject? Who is the sentence about? Well, that's our who, Grandma, and she comes at the beginning of our sentence. Watch out though, because some sentences don't always start with the subject. And if you're writing your own sentence, it's good not to always start with the subject, so it gives variety to the reader. So we know the who. So then we can look out for what they are doing. While Grandma pulled. So Grandma pulled the boat in is an action word. with the centre line. That's how she did it. So Grandma poured the boat in. Poured must be the verb, but let's check it with our tenses. So here is our subject, and we're going to put the word now in front of Grandma. Now, Grandma pulls the boat in with the centre line. Yesterday, Grandma pulled the boat in with the centre line. Tomorrow, Grandma will pull or is going to pull the boat in with the centre line. So pulled has changed each time. So pulled is our verb. Let's try with our final sentence. And this sentence, we are introduced to Friendship Duck. And Friendship Duck in the story becomes one of Zephyr's closest friends. Friendship Duck flapped her wings. So the who in our sentence is Friendship Duck. And then we can ask, what is she doing? Well, Friendship Duck flapped her wings. So flapped must be the verb. But let's do the tense check because like I said, and in our activity, it's going to be harder to find some of the verbs. So we'll do our tense check. Now, Friendship Duck flaps her wings. Tomorrow, Friendship Duck will flap or is going to flap, will flap her wings. Yesterday, Friendship Duck flapped her wings, and this sentence is already written in the past, which is why flap stays the same. So we found our verb by finding our subject and what they were doing, but we checked it with our tenses. But in our first sentence, it wasn't really clear what Zephyr was doing. So we did our tense check to definitely make sure that the word that was changing was. Because remember, verbs are the only word out of all the word classes that change tense.